بسم الله، أهلا وسهلا بحضراتكم بجميع مشاهدين ومتابعين صفحة مركز الجالية العربية على صفحتكم المميزة صفحة الفيسبوك. وحشتونا جدا وأهلا وسهلا بحضراتكم في حلقة جديدة من برنامج اسأل المستشار Ask the Expert. كعادتنا بحضراتكم إن احنا دائما بنهتم بكل ما هو يشغل بال حضراتكم وكل ما هو جديد في إن هو يدعم موقف حضراتكم في الوطن الجديد كندا على أرض كندا ليكم ولأسرتكم. ونظرا لأن كل مرحلة في الحياة بتحتاج مننا إن احنا نضعها في إطار التخطيط وفي إطار الاستراتيجيات، فكان لينا تواصل مع مؤلف كتاب من الكتب الشهيرة جدا واللي أصبحت دلوقتي حديث السوشيال ميديا، وهو كتاب القادمون إلى كندا أو Coming to Canada. هذا الكتاب مليء بالأسرار اللي هي هتساعد حضراتكم النهاردة إن شاء الله. هنحاول نخوض في خلال الساعة القادمة كل ما هو متعلق بالأفكار المطروحة في الكتاب. وبمنتهى الأمانة والصراحة هذا الكتاب هو كتاب ساري جدا. أنا يعني قريته حوالي مرتين، لأن أنا مش كل مرة بحاول إن أنا ألاقي لنفسي معلومة جديدة وشكل جديد وإطار جديد. الكتاب ده بيناقش إزاي تقدر تنجح في وطن جديد في كندا بالذات، إزاي تقدر تشوف كل ما هو متعلق بالثقافات الجديدة اللي حوالين حضرتك، أماكن العمل، أماكن الأكل، الشرب، المدارس، العقبات اللي بتواجه حضراتكم وبتواجهنا طبعا في مجتمع جديد. عشان كده هيكون ضيفي وضيف حضراتكم هيكون مشرفني مؤلف هذا الكتاب، هو مستر شيدي لوكو، هو مؤلف هذا الكتاب. مستر شيدي, thank you very much to accept our invitation as a speaker about your amazing book in our page, Arab Community Center of Toronto. Have a good afternoon, and thank you very much again to come to our page.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Shidi. As I told to our audience in the introduction in Arabic language, this book, it have already the journey from the day one to come to Canada till you will be successful in Canada. But first of all, let me ask you from where you get the idea to make the strategic plan in Canada in one book like we have it in our hand now. It will be a good idea. How to get this idea?
So we came to Canada and we are looking for comprehensive resource that could speak to us as we move through the immigration process, the settlement process. We visited a couple of settlement agencies and talked to a couple of people, but we went to the library, we couldn't find anything. So the settlement agencies, as you know, some are specialized, right? Some deal with, say, education, some deal with settlement, some deal with, and all that. So we felt that, so we couldn't find any resource that could speak to us. So I felt that there was a gap in the market, that we needed to bring these things together in a form that will help the people who are coming behind to have their journey easier than we did, right? The idea is, even if you don't have anybody in Canada and you get a copy of this book, you'll be able to do all the things that you need to do. You speak to you as if you have a friend walking beside you as you take all the necessary steps you need to take once you get to Canada. So that's what it's all about, helping our communities, helping the immigrant community, helping the immigrants to come in, settle, and thrive.
So it means this book, it's already came from your struggle before.
Yes.
So you struggled to find the resources. So you decided to make it easier for all newcomers to put your experience here in that book.
Absolutely. It comes from my struggle. It comes from my experience, because we couldn't find the help that we needed. We felt we need to do something about it in the Canadian spirit of community, helping other people. We needed to do something about it. So I went into the journey of writing the book, and it has been very revealing.
Yeah. You told me about when you came to Canada, you're trying to find resources. From your experience, what's the difference between the newcomer in the past and the newcomer now in Canada? What the difference you'll find out based on your experience?
I think currently there are, well, just like every other aspect of the Canadian life, there have been an improvement. I think currently there are more information out there. There are more accessibility, more opportunities for the newcomers to access information that they require. I think there are a couple of more interventions like mine that are available right now that
Right.
people can have access to. So all in, I believe that the settlement process is becoming a lot easier because of the information people are sharing, because of the
Right.
solution that people are providing. I'll
Mhm.
give you an example. When I came in here, it took me 6 months to find my first paying job. 6 months.
6 months.
Yes.
Mhm.
So within that 6 months, I had 5 mouths to feed. Okay.
Mhm.
But now with the information that I have in the book, people are finding their jobs in less than a month, less than some 2 weeks, some 3 weeks, because of the information that I passed on in the book.
Yeah.
So that begins to tell you that there have been a shift because of some of the work that we are doing, conversations that we're having, and the work that the effort that are being put out there to support newcomers. So you already know what the problem is you're going to face. We're already giving you the solution to them. All you need to do is plug and play. So that's basically what it is.
Right, right. Uh, this is a good point. You mention it now about the people when they're trying to find a job. You find the job after 6 months, and I think in chapter three, what I remember, you told us about your experience when you came to Canada and trying to walk and trying to adapt yourself to the weather. And you tell us about some drama in the book. I like it. It's kind of when you watch a TV show or when you watch a movie in the theater. This give us a journey. So tell us more about it to our audience to give them the support, because when someone find who is already struggling the same struggle he has it now, and definitely for sure is different than you have it before, because as you said, the settlement agencies like Arab Community Center of Toronto, for instance, it's available now and the people can access it, can call, can send an email. But in the past, what the settlement challenges you faced for?
Well, the biggest of them, obviously, is the culture shock. The culture shock defines every aspect of Canadian culture, of Canadian life. So the idea that people do things differently here than where you're coming from, right?
Mhm.
So you come into Canada and you're already used to a certain way of life. And now you're coming into a different part of the world where things you held very strongly
Mhm.
do no longer matter. And the things that you don't consider as very significant before are now the main things. So it's
Mhm.
more or less like a culture shock, right? So I'll give you an example. We are very warm. Where I come from, we're very warm people, we're very loud people, we're very boisterous, right? But you come to Canada, and Canadians are a little more reserved, a little more laid back, and a little more
Relaxing. Yeah.
relaxed, right? So you
Yeah.
you need to strike that balance between being seen as assertive and being seen as aggressive. So that's number one, right?
Mhm.
So and stepping out from there, it permeates every other aspect of the Canadian life as a newcomer, and then you now get into the domestic environment where you live. For example, the
Yeah.
way you discipline your children if you're a parent, and the way back home and the way you discipline them here are different, right?
Totally
you,
different.
you need to manage it well. The other part of that conversation is also the idea of networking when you're looking for a job.
Hmm.
Back home, when you're looking for a job, you find an opportunity, you apply for it, you're called up, okay? But
Yeah.
in Canada, you quickly learn that only 25% of the jobs that exist are published. So there's something you call the hidden job market, and it's about 75%
Hidden job market.
hidden job market.
Okay. This
So
is a good terminology.
yeah, so when you get into Indeed or any of those job sites and all that, what you see there is just a tip of the iceberg about the jobs that exist, and those jobs are being filled every day through what people call networking. So if I'm working with you, for example, and an opportunity comes out in the organization, you will likely ask me if I know somebody who can fill in that opportunity well.
Yeah.
And once I submit the resume or invite the person to come and talk, you are likely going to give that person a chance to come in and show what they can do, much more than the person who is applying on the job outside, because some other person has recommended him because of that recommendation. So these are some of the things that people face. The biggest challenge, I think, would be the idea that you need Canadian job experience to get Canadian job.
Right.
So somebody is coming in today into Canada, and he goes for an interview, and they say you don't have Canadian experience. And then the logical question would be, I need Canadian job so I can get Canadian experience. And here you're being discriminated against because you don't have Canadian experience to get Canadian job. So this is one of the biggest challenges that newcomers have, and breaking that logjam is one of the things I took time to address in the book I wrote, Coming to Canada, The Ultimate Success Guide for Me.
In the book, I know the solution here in the book. That's why I'm encouraging everyone to have a copy. But if you give us a hint today for, let's say, for what you mentioned it now, one of the struggling to find a job, it will be the wall. We're saying Canadian experience. How you can pass that wall?
Well, you said I should give you a hint, so I'll just drop one word: volunteerism. Just volunteer. Find a way and volunteer, and then from volunteering, get the book. You see how you can use the volunteer experience to then leverage the job market.
Right. I will take your permission now to translate our conversation a little bit to our audience in Arabic language to make it easier for understanding. هو أعزائي المشاهدين، الفقرة السابقة احنا كنا بنتكلم مع مستر شيدي على، كنت بس بقول له الكتاب ده انت فكرت فيه ازاي او ليه. فهو كان بيقول لي ان الكتاب ده فكر فيه لانه هو لما جاء على كندا في سابق الوقت فما كانش فيه امكانيات كبيرة زي ما موجودة حاليا دلوقتي، إمكانية إنك أنت تتواصل مع المراكز والمكاتب الحكومية. طبعا وقت على رأسهم مركز الجالية العربية في خدمة حضراتكم. ما كانش في أماكن تقدر تساعده في إن هو يعمل السيتلمنت أو إن هو يقدم على الأوراق أو يخلص أوراقه الحكومية. وكمان كان في مشكلة وصعوبة تانية إن هو يلاقي شغل، إن هو كانت أكبر عقبة موجودة وما زالت إلى الآن يعني بتمثل أمام الناس اللي هم بيدوروا على شغل، اللي هي كلمة الكنديان اكسبيرينس أو الخبرة الكندية. هو كان بينصح بيقول بإني أكتر حاجة هتساعد أي حد هنا قادم جديد إلى كندا أو موجود على كندا بقاله فترة وبيدور على شغل، حتى في الفترة السابقة لما ابتدينا نرجع لحياتنا الطبيعية بعد ما الحمد لله خلصت جائحة كورونا، بيقول لك ان لازم تكون عندك الخبره الكنديه من خلال الفولنتيرنج او الشغل التطوعي. تقدر تقدم على اماكن كتير بتقدم خدمه الشغل التطوعي، انك انت كمان تشتغل في الماركت الكندي، ما تبقاش انك انت بس واقف على نقطه انا محتاج اشتغل ايه. ذكر لنا كمان نقطه مهمه جدا، بيقول بان المجتمع الكندي هو مجتمع هادئ جدا. طبعا الحمد لله، نتمنى ان هو يستمر على هذا المنوال، هادئ وما عندهوش زي ما في بلادنا في سخونة شوية في التعامل. يعني التعامل هنا بيتم بشكل هادي بشكل راقي، فده طبعا بيبقى إحدى المعوقات، لأن نظرا لاختلاف الثقافات فممكن تتصور انك انت لما تتصل على التليفون وعاوز خدمة معينة او شيء معين، فانت محتاج الحاجة دي تتم دلوقتي على طول، ولو ما حصلتش ممكن مثلا انك تتضايق او تتعصب. دي برضو احدى الحاجات اللي هو ذكرها، ان الثقافة الكندية ثقافة مختلفة في التعامل أو في تناول الموضوعات. هي ثقافة هادئة، ثقافة بتعتمد على الراحة، على الريلاكسيشنز. طبعا ده بيختلف من مكان إلى آخر، يعني كان احنا بنتكلم بوجه العموم. الحاجة التانية اللي ذكرها بإن كمان في أماكن العمل لما بيقدموا او بيحطوا الجوب بوستنج على الاونلاين زي موقع انديد، بيقول لك بان ده بس بيكون 25% من الموجود او طلبات الماركت. ال 75% الباقيين دول بيتموا عن طريق الاتصالات الداخليه. بمعنى ان هو مثلا لو حد شغال معايا او شغال معاك في مكان وطلب منك، قال لك ما تعرفش والله حد بيشتغل الشغلانه دي او يقدر يساعدنا في الموضوع ده، فانت اكيد هتشوف اقاربك، احبائك، اصحابك، حد من الدائره المحيطه بيك، فده هيشتغل بسرعه اسرع من شخص ان هو بيحاول انه يلاقي مكان للشغل. عشان كده ان العلاقات بتكون مهمه جدا في المجتمع الكندي. اوكي مستر شيدي. Now we can go through one of the biggest chapter. I like it here, the chapter 3, strategies for success in Canada. What do you mean by strategies? Like you make a plan, you put a protocol to be success in Canada in your book?
Yeah, because yes. So what I did was to consider the key areas that sometimes people don't think about in this whole thing of coming to Canada, settling in, and moving about. And those, for me, are very important.
Yes.
And we need to remind people again about what is at stake. And so I thought that off the bat, we immediately, sequentially, once you come in, I needed to talk to you a little bit to say from the one, these are the things that are very important that you need to be mindful of. Okay.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I put them inside that chapter. And the the essence is for you to note from the one that is, these are the things that you need to um, remember that are very important. I have a banking background, and so I have this sense of knowing what my key performance indicators are. So what are the things that will matter for me in this project called Coming to Canada? What are the things that are very important that I need to always keep an eye on? And one of them obviously is being alive. You'll be shocked, right?
Yeah.
You'll be shocked that we need to remind people to be alive. It's not just being alive, it's also making choices that will keep you alive, like
Mhm.
dressing according to the weather. I live in Edmonton, and the winter in Alberta is very brutal. But
I
you can
know.
still see newcomers, people who were born in very hot countries, come in here, and they are very careless with their dressing.
Mhm.
And then they get ill, and before you know it, they're in the hospital or they're off. How about the one of jail walking, where you are crossing the road where you are not permitted to cross, where there are no crosswalk
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
middle of traffic?
Mhm.
You could have done that somewhere else. You don't do that in Canada because you might get involved in an accident and you might die. By the
Mhm.
way, road accident is, I think, still the biggest death factor in Canada. So
Yes.
more people are killed by road accidents, even with
Yeah.
all the speed limits, everything that we know, and everything in a year than any other source of that statistic.
I
Okay,
like
so
in this chapter, if I didn't interrupt you, I like the way you present and the way your observation for the newcomer. Even you look for some small details we didn't look for it. So when I read the book for the first time, I said, "Oh, maybe Mr. Shidi is already watched me when I came to Canada, because I already struggled from day one. What you mentioned, it like the weather for the car, for the rules. I remember when I came to Canada for the first night, it was winter time also, and when I already my family picked it up from the airport, I was very confusing how he knows all those kind of highways, how he knows he where go where, and it's a lot of cars, a lot of ways, a lot of highways, intersections, and in back home we have only one way, two ways, and that's it. But how you make your observations like this in details, and you guide the newcomer for you will face this. Because if I handed this book to someone already came today from Toronto airport, he will read it, and I met him after 1 month, definitely will say, oh, you know what, this is the Bible for to come to Canada.
Thank you for your kind words. So, the thing is, I also wrote from not just my own experience, but the experience of other people. I have had the fortune, the blessing, as it were, that so many people have landed in my house since I came to Canada. A very big, for me, a very big privilege. Okay, people have landed in my house. So when I go pick them up from the airport, they come into my home. We start that process of helping them to settle, to find their feet, find their house, find drive a car, and all that and all that. So I have done this over, I can assure you, there are more than 10 families that have landed in my house, right?
Oh
Since I
my
came to Canada.
Lord. Oh,
And then I have helped, I worked as the humanitarian director in my community, Igbo Cultural Association of Edmonton. I was the humanitarian director for about 2 years.
oh yeah, oh,
And
that's
so
awesome.
part of what I did in that role is to help newcomers settle, have access to community resources. So
Mhm.
after doing this for some years, I said to myself, okay, so I can't keep doing this for everybody who is coming in, right? Because I can't reach everybody. Why don't I codify all that experience, all that I've learned, and then somebody in Toronto, somebody in Zimbabwe, somebody in
Mhm.
Pakistan can still
Mhm.
have access to the same information that I've been giving to other people and making that made them a little bit more successful. So that's the idea. So I take it from the point of when you are starting off, deciding that you're coming to Canada. What are the challenges you're going? What are the pain points? At what point, what are the things that can cause you challenges at each step of the way? And I try to address those issues so that before you get there, you already have a solution. You already know what to expect. This is
Ah,
what it is. Because part of the biggest problem we have in Canada is the way moving to Canada is being sold abroad. So we have very different ideas or imaginations of how life is in Canada. But when
yeah,
you come in, you realize that there's a little bit of disparity between the reality
yeah,
and the vision, right? So the
yeah.
book closes that gap to say this is Canada the way it is for real. I don't know, that's what I set out to do, and I am hoping that I did that at the end of the book.
Right. So, do you have newcomers, as you told us, in your home, when they come to Canada, and they're giving you the experience they have it? Do you find the similarity for the challenges, or is different than, let's say, someone different than countries, based on race, based on culture, based on educational level, or you find it's a general struggle for everyone, and the book can give it to you in the way you can go over it?
And that's a very interesting question. So I will answer yes and no. Yes, in the sense there are primary things that are required. It doesn't matter where you come from. So you need a house, you need food, you need clothes, you need shelter, and you need a job to pay your bills.
Yes,
So you need to be alive, you need food, you need shelter, you need a job to pay your bills. This is
yes.
universal to everybody. This is what
Mhm.
everybody needs. This is what
Yes,
everybody wants.
yeah.
However, if you then go into the sometimes gender identification, sometimes the disparities between cultures, etc., the idea of you of belonging and of diversity and of inclusion then begins to come in, right?
Mhm.
So people understanding that there is not one single culture that is supreme in Canada.
Yes,
Canada is a multicultural place, and
yes,
Canada thrives on getting people belonging. And Canada has a diversity of opportunities and diversity of desires and diversity of people. Therefore, everybody is welcomed and everybody is included in this community that we're building that's multicultural. So
correct.
you then begin to see how it speaks to you again about how to handle some of those challenges. Off the bat, I can give you an idea.
Yes.
You know how some of us come from countries where the idea of same-sex marriage, for example,
Mm-hmm.
is difficult to even conceptualize, is even difficult to accept. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you come into Canada. I spoke earlier about culture shock. That's one of the things that you would notice, that there's a bit of the Canada approves and Canada upholds
Mm-hmm.
same-sex relationships. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you, as somebody who comes from an awfully conservative background, begin to relate to that? So
Mm-hmm.
those are some of the themes and some of the strategies and some of the agenda I discussed in the book, so that you're
Yes.
able to see how you can navigate all of that without falling foul of the law of the land, and then with while staying true to your own convictions.
Right. So, what you recommend is to don't put your biases. It will be kind of battle between you and the community. So you have to adapt yourself to the new community. You have to accept the laws, like what you're saying, to accept the law, let's say, for driving. The driving here in Canada is different than other countries and back homes. So you don't have to confuse yourself, or you don't have to refuse it, or you don't have to saying, oh, this is kind of not a good thing, and the values and norms for the community, like what you mentioned, for the, let's say, people came from conservative communities or countries that doesn't like some regulations for relations, something like this. So your adaptation is the best. Adaptation is the best. So
Yeah,
here, if we can talk about adaptation, I can adapt myself. What's the key to adapt? Means that talk the
the,
same language, read something, watch something.
now, so the biggest tool for adaptation is an open mind. It's for you to know that um, there are different versions of whatever truth you hold. Okay. And you keep an open mind. First is that there are things we all have in common: human dignity, respect for each other. The idea that if you are in need and I can solve that problem, I should willingly come up and to support you, to help you. Okay. So those are the things that we have as universal values. It doesn't matter which culture where we live in. We're always helping the vulnerable, the people who cannot help themselves. And we also know that today you might be in the position to help, tomorrow you might be in the position to be helped. So it's you play it forward. So these are universal.
Yes.
And you understanding that then means that when you keep an open mind and say, I don't know the full story, I don't know this person's full story, what his journey is, whatever
Mm.
it is, but I'm helping him because I'm supporting and I'm taking him on face value because he is a human being like I am, with the core values that I have. And it doesn't matter what color or his skin is. It doesn't matter what his speech is, his language is. It doesn't matter how he sees the world. The most important thing is that he is a human being, no less than I am. Because at the end of the day, all of us have gifts that we bring to this community.
Definitely, definitely. So that's a good point. The open mind. So you have to open your mind to accept the community. It doesn't matter to accept the idea, but you have to accept the people beliefs. You have to accept the people values. You don't have to judge. You don't have to stop yourself. And I like the way you say you don't have to hide yourself. Be there in the community and accept their beliefs and norms. Right. There's a time to translations. اوكي. اعزائي المشاهدين، في الفقره اللي فاتت كنا بنتكلم على امور خاصه بالكتاب كام تو كندا بوك. كان بنناقش الاستراتيجيات بتاعه القادمين الجدد الى كندا وكيفيه النجاح الى كندا. صدقوني هو الكتاب مش بس للقادمين الجدد، يعني انا بقالي في كندا فتره طويله شويه الحمد لله يعني. اوكي، بس استفدت فعلا من هذا الكتاب. فهو كان بيناقش فكرة بإن الاستراتيجية إنك تنجح في كندا، أول حاجة إنك أنت لازم تكون عندك دراية وعلم بإن في حاجة اسمها cultural shock، الصدمة الحضارية. الصدمة الحضارية بمعنى اختلاف في اللغة، اختلاف في العادات، اختلاف في التقاليد، اختلاف في الأكل، في الشرب، اختلاف حتى في نوعية العلاقات وبعضها. هذا الاختلاف هو سبب قوة المجتمع الكندي. يمكن اتعلمنا لما جينا على كندا أو إلى الآن، يعني دايما بنحب نقول لأصدقائنا القادمين الجدد إن diversity is our power، يعني اختلافنا هو دايما هو سبب قوتنا. الاختلاف ده بيدي للمجتمع الكندي طبيعة خاصة جدا، ان هو بيحترم كل الثقافات وكل الديانات وكل الأجناس وكل الألوان. هذا الاحترام تحت إطار انك تتكيف مع هذا الاختلاف. التكيف بيكون نتيجة لأن انت ابتديت تعمل نوع من أنواع الادابتيشن، أو بنسميه انك تتوافق مع العقلية الموجودة في كندا أو في المجتمع الجديد. بمعنى أنك أنت لما تنزل الشغل أو حتى أولادك وبناتك في المدارس بيرجعوا لك بالليل بيحكوا لك على حاجات كتير بيشافوها في المدرسة ومعلومات سمعوها. هنا تكون شطارة الأب أو الأم أن ثقافتنا العربية مش هتتوافق كتير مع الثقافات المختلفة. مش لازم تكون الكندية، ممكن ثقافات دول تانية، أولاد وبنات قادمين من بلدان أخرى. مش لازم تحسس ابنك وبنتك بأن في عقبة معينة وبأن لأ وتقف قدام ده. احنا بمنتهى الارتياحية بنقول ان بنناقش الأفكار دي بمنطقية وبعقلانية وبهدوء، وبنشوف ايه المتناسب معنا كثقافة عربية بنقدر ناخدها، والمش متوافق معنا بنحترمه. لا نضعه في إطار القضاء، يعني ما بنحطوش على منصة القضاء وبنحكم عليه إن هو صح ولا غلط. إحنا ملناش نحكم إيه صح وإيه غلط، إحنا بنقبل الفكرة. مش لازم تتعايش مع الفكرة، لكن قبولك للفكرة في حد ذاته بيديلك ارتياحية إنك أنت تعيش في المجتمع بشكل آمن، بشكل صحي، بشكل يخليك كل يوم عندك قبول لبكرة، تنزل تشتغل، تروح تتفسح، تاكل، تشرب، تودي ولادك وبناتك المدارس، ولادك وبناتك يكبروا في إطار صحي. عدم النظر إلى المجتمع الآخر إن هو مجتمع غير جيد أو مجتمع غير متوافق معاه. مجتمع كله جيد، هتشوفه ده لحظة ما إنك أنت هيكون عندك التكيف أو إنك تفتح عقلك على الأفكار التانية. Right, Mr. Shidi. So, if we jump to the another chapter, which one is the very important one, so what's calling chapter 7. No, sorry, it is chapter talking about the mental problems. See here. Talking about homesickness. This one can cause kind of mental problems. So, how is the homesickness? You can give us today the way to go over it. Especially, I'm talking about the Middle East countries. I'm from Egypt, and most of the Middle East people struggling from the homesickness because our traditional and our ways and our values and the way we live, the way we deal with each other together in the back home is different than. So when we come to Canada, from the day one, we will find the homesickness. It's kind of a red lamp in our lights.
So the biggest cure for homesickness is to get involved in your community. The way Canada is structured is that everybody comes in. We're building a community of people from all over the world. Yet inside that community, we have people that we have different forms of affinity with. And not one is more important than the other. Okay. So, for example, if you come from Lebanon, for example,
Yes.
you have to be proud that you are Lebanese. The same way you are proud that you are a Canadian. Yeah, being a Lebanese does not subtract from you being a Lebanese, right?
Yes.
So you have the two of them pari passu going. The biggest thing I suggest to people when they come here is get involved in the community. Find the people who have the same shared values and shared experience, lived experience like you. That way, when the homesickness comes and you are so you are thinking about back home, you could transport, you could bring those things, you could initiate those kind of relationships and programs and activities that you did back home as much as possible here. Why that is important is, you see, Canada is very interesting. Canada does not want you to change because you're in Canada. Canada wants you to be yourself while you're in Canada. And that's a very interesting point. Unlike some other countries that want to assimilate you, right?
Yes.
Canada wants you to be the way you are. Bring the best of you to Canada. So what that means then is we have the opportunity to showcase our cultural legacy, showcase our inheritance, showcase who we are, where we are coming from, and show people that before we came to Canada, we were thriving, we lived in thriving communities, and this is the way we do things in that thriving community. My suggestion off the bat would be get involved in the community, get involved in your cultural organization, get involved with your faith-based organization, get involved with the people that maintain relationship with the people who have shared the same experience with you, have lived the same process with you. That way, you won't feel too much about, you won't feel so bad about it. That's number one. Number two is I also caution people when they talk too much about homesickness, and they're thinking about so much about home. Therefore, their mind and their heart is in back home. Their body is here.
Yes.
And I've seen that happen over and over with so many people in my community. So people come in here and they say, you know what, after 5 years, I'm going home, or I'm going home. And then they don't give their full heart to the place where they are. And they also don't give their full heart to home. Their heart and mind are home, their bodies are here. What happens then is that you are not fully engaged with Canada. You are not fully engaged with the community where you live. You don't bring your whole self to the act of community building. And that's very dangerous on two phases. One is you are not reaping the full fruit of the land where you are. Two, you're also not planting the seeds that others will reap tomorrow.
Correct.
Right? So those are the challenges that come with being an immigrant, the fact that you lost somewhere and now you're living somewhere. But this is home. For me, as a person, this is home. This is not holiday. And I wrote it in, I think, the last chapter of my book. This is home. It's not holiday. So I am here to live. What that means is that the same way I lived in my village back where I came from, is the same way I'm going to be living here. And to prove that I am having that context in the way I live, this summer I organized a barbecue, a block barbecue for my street. I got people out, right? Knocked on doors and say, hey, will you be interested in doing this? And they said yes. And they came out and it was amazing, the kind of turnout that I saw that day. And we had so much food. People had lived in this neighborhood where I live for over 10 years and they don't know each other.
Oh, yes.
We're meeting themselves for the first time. So, but what gave me that? Why did I do that? Because in the small village where we live, we know each other. We know everybody. Everybody knows everybody.
Typically.
But if you think that on my street, for example, there are more than 50 houses, and if those 50 houses on average were to house three people, that you're looking at 150 people. I can assure you that my immediate kindred in where I come from, we're not up to 150 people living there right now.
Holy. Okay.
You understand how my mind is working about this? So you get 150 people knowing each other. They know you, they see your kids. So then we now begin to build our own village in Canada. Then we can now begin to talk about the fact that it takes a village to train a child. Even in Canada, we can build a village that will train the child. So if my kids are doing something wrong on the street right now, a neighbor will be able to stop and say, hey, buddy, that is wrong. Why? Because I have broken the ice, right? Rather than us moving up and down for the whole, and then nobody knows. And then the other part of it, I would like my kids to grow up having childhood friends.
Yes, correct.
Well, we've left the childhood friends they have back home where we come from. Now we need to replicate that so that they can have people now, neighborhood friends, people that they grow up with as they move on through the journey called life.
Mm-hmm.
That's on the one hand. The other part of this whole journey is there are people in our community who have become seniors.
Oh, yes.
So, and we live in a country where either you have snow, yeah, or you have um, you need to shovel snow or you need to cut grasses. Now,
Yeah.
back home, where we come from, our elders don't do such work, right? Such heavy
True.
lifting, they don't do it. Now, I am getting people to replicate this. So now I know the number of seniors in my street. When it's snow time, when the snow falls, I'm going to organize again so we can be shoveling their snow. They don't need to come and shovel snow.
Uh-huh. So I like what you advise us today for how to go over it for the homesickness, even for the example you mentioned it. If people came, let's say, for from Lebanese, so you said bring your Lebanese traditional with you and you live with it, and Canada doesn't want you to change, live as is. But how you advise the people when they come to Canada from the day one, they need to peel their skin. They wanted to change their identity from what they are to like the Canadian or American, North American cultures. Even they denying for their back homes when they ask for where you come from. He trying to hide it or to manipulate it or to didn't like to say because he feel kind of shaming if he's saying I came from this country or from this country and he didn't wear, let's say, his national wear in some weddings or for some of the feasts, something like this, especially for the I'm talking about the new generation. So you advise them to be proud. Why they have to be proud came from this country? What's the benefit for them?
The culture is a way of life, and culture is the way we transmit wisdom that we receive from generation to the generation. So we transmit it through culture, through food, and through language. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, most of the things that we suffer in terms of mental health, personal identity, come from not knowing where we fit in this whole wide universe. And
Yeah.
culture is a way, is a method, is one way to make a meaning of who we are, where we come from, where we are headed to, how we link up to our place in the world. Okay, you will define it from culture.
Mhm.
So if you don't have that deep rootedness, you will have crisis of identity. Okay,
Mhm.
and you see
Mhm.
that crisis of identity in so many ways. That is why today, for example, if you go to the prison, you see that the immigrant community is disproportionately represented there because at the root of the problem is a crisis of identity. Who am I? Am I Canadian?
Mhm.
Am I Lebanese? Because
Mhm.
we think that you have to be either or, but you can be both. My argument is that you can be both, and you can be both. I'm very proud of it, right? I'm very proud that I am Nigerian, I am Black, I am Christian, I am Catholic, I am a writer, I am Canadian. I am very
Mhm.
proud of all of these identities. There's none that is superior to anyone. Okay.
So your identity can power you, can give it your power.
Identity gives you like what do you call this? Like the this advert, this popular advert by Red Bull. Identity can give you the wings to fly.
The way, oh, that's nice. That's
Right?
nice.
It
That's
can give you
nice.
the wings to fly if you understand what it is exactly that you have, the treasures that you have there. And
Uh-huh.
having that then comes with the responsibility to move it to the next generation, to preserve it for other people, right? And not just to let it go because it's a light that has been given to you from the ancient. So you are carrying it and you dare not put off that light during your own time. So it's important that people know where they're coming from, people know where they are and where they're headed to. and people will be proud enough. The beautiful thing, and I repeat it again, the beautiful thing is that we are in Canada where cultures merge, where we have people
Right.
coming in from everywhere, and we have one big pot. We're cooking we're building one big project, which is the Canadian project. Everybody brings their skill. Everybody brings their emotions and the things that they have, their inheritances to build this country.
Right.
So
So
if you as a person don't have that sense of identity, you'll be confused. So today, what are you?
you'll be nothing. You'll be
You'll
nothing.
be you'll be moving with the wind. So you stay with this person who says you are this and you agree, and then the next one another, and then you'll be doing things to force yourself to belong. And some of those things to force yourself to belong might be against the law. But if you come in from a sense of this is who I am, it's settled in your mind. This is who I am. I am a Lebanese, but I'm going through a Canadian journey. I live in Canada now, and I am Canadian as much as I am Lebanese, right? Then it's easier for you to bring the good of Lebanon, or the good from Lebanon, the good from Canada, put them together, and then use it to build up something for yourself here.
So we have to keep, let's say, for instance, in some occasional or feast, I have to wear some the national theme clothes. I don't have to feel shame when I walk on the street.
No,
I
you
don't
don't
have.
have to. You don't have to at all.
Right. If the people now they think, oh, let's say for the Muslim community, let's say I'm talking about because the Arab
Yes.
community, right, for females wearing hijab or wearing the Islamic galabeya, right? So we don't have to feel that kind of strange. You have to be proud. When you be proud, it will be strong in the community, and you have to, like, when you accept the other people, for sure, definitely the other people can accept you.
Yeah. So there's no culture that is more important or superior to another one. That's the main point here. Your culture is beautiful the way it is. Your
Mm.
culture is interesting the way it is. My culture is interesting. So I mentioned about having an open mind. I go out to festivals, to cultural days, etc., in my city, and I'm like, wow, in what country else in the world can you have this number of cultures represented?
To be honest, nothing. Only
Now,
us. Only
only
us.
us.
Yeah.
It makes me so, because now I don't need to go to Lebanon to eat Lebanese food. I don't
Uh-huh.
need to go to France to eat French food. I don't need to go to Pakistan to eat Pakistan. I don't need to go to Rwanda. So everything is represented here.
Exactly, exactly. You find the Iranian food beside the Lebanese, beside the Mexican,
Absolutely.
beside, yeah, yeah. You're right. You're
Absolutely.
right.
So if I decide today that I want to understand what it looks like to be Mexican, all I need to do is find the Mexican community, get into the Mexican community, have conversations with them, join them in whatever they are doing, and I will come out much more enriched. Even if I didn't travel to Mexico. By the way, even if I travel to Mexico, I would just stay in hotels, right? It would not be the same like immersing myself in that culture.
Yes. Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
the biggest thing that we
Very
have
important.
as Canadians,
Yeah.
going for
Yeah.
us as Canadians. And that is why the biggest virtue, the biggest strength of Canada is our diversity.
Diversity. Exactly. Exactly. Time for translation. Yes. في الفقرة السابقة كنا أعزائي المشاهدين بنتكلم على موضوع في منتهى الأهمية بصراحة، وكان يعني في موضوع شيق جدا، وهو موضوع إنك أنت إزاي بتتغلب على الهوم سيكنس أو بتتغلب على الحنين إلى الوطن. وتطرقنا إلى موضوع تضارب الثقافات أو تعارض الثقافة الغربية الكندية مع الثقافات في البلدان المختلفة. فكان الحديث تطرق بينا إلى إني الاهتمام بانك انت تنقل ثقافتك معاك، تيجي على كندا وانت لابس ثقافتك ومفتخر بيها، سواء كانت هذه الثقافة ثقافة خاصة بالأكل، بالشرب، بالعادات، بالتقاليد الدينية، بلبسك، بمظهرك، باحتفالاتك، بمزيكتك، حتى بنوع المزيكا اللي تحب تسمعها أو نوعية المطاعم اللي بتحب تروحها. فكنا بنتناقش قلنا ان فعلا دي حقيقه، بان المجتمع الكندي هو المجتمع الوحيد على مستوى العالم انك انت تقدر تلاقي كل هذا الاختلاف كله عايش في مكان واحد. وفي لما تنزل مثلا ليتس سبيل المثال، لما تنزل تروح على اي بلازا او اي مكان في اكل او شرب، ممكن تلاقي المطعم الايراني والباكستاني والهندي والصيني والمصري واللبناني والافريقي، وكل الاماكن دي كلها مجتمعه وكلها بتحترم بعضها. يمكن ذكرنا على سبيل المثال احنا كمجتمع عربي بيكون بناتنا وستاتنا منقبات او محجبات. لازم تكون عندك الاهتمام بانك انت تبان بثقافتك وتهتم بده وما تخافش من ده، وما تقولش ان في حد باصص لي نظرة مختلفة. المجتمع الكندي بيحب دايما ان كل المجتمعات تحترم بعضها في اطار الاحترام. بنحترم كل الثقافات، بنحترم كل العلاقات، بنحترم كل الاديان، بنحترم كل الالوان. حتى اذا احنا كان عندنا بعض الاعتراضات على بعض العلاقات او بعض الاشياء اللي احنا شايفين بناء على ثقافتك وبناء على مجتمعك وبناء على ديانتك في شيء يختلف او يتصادم مع هذه الثقافة ومع هذه الديانة، ده ما يمنعكش انك انت تتناغم مع المجتمع الكندي، لان هذا التناغم وهذا التنوع هو اللي بيعطي قوة للمجتمع الكندي. هو مستر شيدي كان بينصح بيقول بان الاهتمام بان ثقافتك وان المرجعية بتاعتك هي دي زي ما يكون الجناحين اللي بيخلوك تقدر تحلق في الاجواء الكندية بكل ارتياحية وبكل سعادة. So, Mr. Shidi, you mentioned before we go to live on air about you have the book or an articles talking about the fraud in Canada and how you protect the newcomer from the fraud. Can you give us a little bit hint about what that for?
So most people in Canada get calls for people who claim to be either CRA or IRCC or any of the government agencies.
Yes.
People impersonating them. We actually call that authority scams. Okay, so you are impersonating the authorities to scam people, and they use it to threaten people to say you have to do this, you have to do this, or something is being levied against you, and so if you don't bring money, you'll be imprisoned or you'll be deported and all that.
Yes.
So the model I developed, and so a lot of people are falling to that because A, the relationship that they had with authority back home, where policing it was a very challenging thing. B, ignorance. C, sometimes greed. And D, not understanding how the whole Canadian economy works. So that model gives you in that model, which is about 90 minutes, we talk about the things to look out for. The idea that nobody in authority will threaten you in Canada in the way that people have been threatened. So even if you get it, then you should know what to do. I'll show you what to do in the model. The idea of you using, even understanding how the credit system works in Canada. And that draws from my background that I've been a banker for close to 17, 18 years before I came to Canada.
Yeah.
So financial literacy is something that is very, very, I take to my heart, very important to me. So it's just to give our people the understanding that this is what is going on. This is how you can handle it. This is how the steps to take so that they don't fall victims to those things. And the numbers are increasing. The Center for Fraud in Canada have staggering numbers of the people who report these cases, the amounts that are lost, and the people who are involved. And they run into millions, right? And even outside that number, within my ecosystem, within my cycle, I know somebody who just came to Canada and who lost $2,300 to the fraudsters. I know somebody who's been here for years and who is now retired who lost $5,000 to the fraudsters. So it's not about how recent you've been in Canada or how long you've been in Canada. It's about you not knowing, appreciating how the financial system works, and people leveraging that gap in knowledge to scam other people.
Exactly, especially in the COVID time when we locked down, the people doesn't know what they can do. They receive a lot of calls asking them to do this, and the people, because they are so excited to do some stuff over the phone, they already responding right away, and they go drop money to those kind of people, and they got fraud. This model is available in your website, Mr. Shidi?
No, it's not available on my website. It's something that I teach people just like over an hour. We can have that conversation by webinar or something. It's not yet. It's not on my website yet.
Right, yeah. I'd like to share your website here to our audience to give them the chance to go through it while we can have a couple of minutes remaining, because it's very interesting, so that I need everyone to see it. Here, the website. 1 second here to share it. Yes, okay. This is a website for Mr. Shidi, right? And if you go a little bit down, you will see what the Mr. Shidi here. It is the best selling author of Come to Canada. This is the book we're talking about today, and you can go through it more, and you can see and get some ideas about the book. For the book itself is available to buy it online from the website itself or from other platform like Amazon. You can buy the book from here. You can click buy and you can find it. And some of the pictures from Mr. Shidi, it's already available during his seminars and webinars in the community. We find how the people love you, Mr. Shidi, a lot here. That's it's a good time. And if someone need to ask specific questions or send a message to Mr. Shidi, he's welcoming for everyone from our community or other everyone to write it just your first name, last name, and email and phone number, and the messages here, and you submit it, and definitely he will back to you. And even if you need to arrange some seminars or webinar to your organization or your company, or even for yourself or for some any kind of purpose, so you can still chat with him. He's a lovely person. He's fast response. I advise everyone to chat with him, to talk with him, because he's amazing. Thank you very much, Mr. Shidi. I can't believe this last minute in our life today, because the conversation and the way you present and the way you give us the advice, it's kind of we listening to ourselves in the mirror. So because everyone already struggle in when he came to Canada, and especially when he got the copy of the book, he will be lucky like me. I really I to be honest with you, this is the third time I read it. This is the third time. The last one, it was from 3 days ago in the weekend, because I have to prepare some of my stuff to meet with you. But when I wrote it for the third time, honestly, I find a new ideas better than the first and second time. So, in behalf of all the Arab Community Center and the head of the Arab Community Center, the CAO, and the settlement manager, and all the program managers, and all the social workers, and in behalf of our community, please accept all the thankful hands for you, and the big hand for you today, because what you did is amazing. Keep doing, and we still contact with you. And if you have any something new, please contact with us again, because we need to have you again to value us, to give us amazing information like we have it today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really thank you for the opportunity.
No, thank you, Mr. Shidi. And be safe for you and for your family, for your community, and still keep open your house open for the newcomers. Okay. Have a great night. Have a great night, Mr. Shidi.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir.
اوكي، اعزائي واصدقائي متابعين صفحه مركز الجاليه العربيه، انا بشكركم شكرا خاص لمتابعتكم لنا في هذه الحلقه اللي هي كانت فعلا بجد ممتعه ومتميزه. قدرنا نتحاور مع مؤلف كتاب كم تو كندا او تعال الى كندا، ادانا فكرة كاملة عن ما هي التحديات اللي بتقابل كل القادمين الجدد إلى كندا، وكل التحديات اللي بتقدر حضرتك وحضرتك القادمين إلى كندا تواجهوها بكل الدعم من خلال الأفكار المتواجدة في هذا الكتاب. هذا الكتاب هو كتاب قيم جدا، هو اسمه Come to Canada. تقدروا تحصلوا عليه من خلال الموقع الخاص اللي هيكون متواجد ومتوفر إن شاء الله. اللينك بتاعه تحت الفيديو الخاص بتاع النهاردة على صفحة مركز الجالية العربية، أو على القناة الخاصة بينا على اليوتيوب تحت اسم مركز الجالية العربية أو Arab Community Center of Toronto ACCTonline.ca. أرجوكم هذا الفيديو هو فيديو بيهتم بكل التفاصيل الخاصة بالتعارض الثقافي أو التضارب الثقافي اللي بين المجتمع الكندي والثقافات العربية على وجه التحديد، بما أن احنا متحدثين للغة العربية. في هذا الفيديو عرضنا أفكار كتير إنك أنت تقدر إزاي تكون عندك نوع من أنواع قابلية الأفكار، وإنك تتفتح على المجتمع الكندي. مش شرط إنك أنت تتعايش معاه بكل أفكاره، ولكن الشرط الوحيد إنك أنت تقبل كل أفكاره. في فرق ما بين القبول والتعايش. الفرق إنك أنت لما تقبل الأفكار والعادات والثقافات الموجودة في المجتمع الكندي مع الحفاظ على ثقافتك وعلى كينونتك وعلى خلفيتك الثقافية والدينية والخلفية اللغوية. حتى يمكن كتير من ولادنا وبناتنا بيكون عندهم مشكلة في انه يتواصل مع الاولاد والبنات باللغة العربية، او مع ابوه او امه في البيت باللغة العربية. لكن ده خطأ، بيكون الخطأ الاكبر مننا احنا كاولياء امور. لازم نحافظ على ثقافتنا وعلى حضارتنا وعلى اهتمامنا باحتفالاتنا الدينية وعلى عاداتنا في الاكل وفي الشرب، وعلى تربيتنا لاولادنا بنفس عاداتك وثقافتك اللي انت نشأت بيها، مع الاحتفاظ بالنشأة الكندية والاهتمام والمحافظة على احترام كل ما هو يحيط بنا في مكان الشغل وفي مكان العمل وفي مكان الدراسة، من لبس، من مظاهر، من تقاليد، من عادات، من كلمات، من نوع من أنواع العلاقات اللي انت ممكن حضرتك تكون عندك اختلاف ديني او اختلاف ثقافي او اختلاف لغوي عليها، لكن اختلافك ده ما يمنعش تماما من احترامك الكامل. إلى أن نلقاكم بإذن الله في حلقات متميزة قادمة بإذن الله في بداية موسم عودة المدارس. وزي ما عودناكم احنا دايما بنكون معاكم إيد بإيد وقلبا على قلب إن احنا بنساعد كل ما هو في متاح لينا كمستشارين مركز الجالية العربية. أرجوكم ابقوا على تواصل معنا على التليفونات الخاصة بينا وعلى الإيميل الخاص. وعندنا دلوقتي إمكانية إن احنا نتقابل مع حضراتكم في فروعنا الموجودة في أوتوبوكو وفي سكاربرو بتحديد الموعد بالاتصال برقم التليفون. إن شاء الله هنكون على تواصل معكم وهننوه عن حلقات متميزة في موسم عودة المدارس. إن نلقاكم في هذه الحلقات المتميزة. أرجوكم ابقوا في أمن الله ورعايته. سلام عليكم.